What's up YouTube? Jeff back again from highonandroid.com, and today I've got the Galaxy S6 Active in, the AT&T exclusive phone, very similar to the Galaxy S6 and the Galaxy S6 Edge. I decided to pick up this phone because it has a much bigger battery than either the S6 or the S6 Edge, so I want to go ahead and unbox it for you and give you a few impressions. So I'm actually doing it a little bit differently this time. Usually I unbox the products live, with you guys right here, so you see for the first time my impressions. This time I decided to switch it up since I've already been using the regular S6 and the S6 Edge. I decided to switch it up, use the phone for 24 hours, so I've already unboxed it, give you some of my impressions, but I wanted to put it back in the box so you guys can see exactly what's in here. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the contents. I'll give you some impressions, and then I'm going to close the video by comparing it to the Galaxy S6 and the Galaxy S6 Edge. So let's go ahead and get into the box. Actually don't need any knife this time. So you see here you've got the image on the front, Samsung branding around here, and some Galaxy S6 Active branding right there. Otherwise there's not much branding, just some AT&T branding. You flip it out, you got the phone. Let's grab the quick start guide right there. Take a look at that in a second. And there's really not much inside. There's an AT&T SIM card included. Of course, I bought the phone full price outright at Best Buy. So let me throw that to the side. I already have my SIM card in there. You got some documentation for the S6 Active from Samsung, some stuff about Milk Music from Samsung. And then of course, with every single Samsung phone, you get your adaptive fast charging power brick, and you get your adapting fast charge cable. And there's nothing else inside the box. So pretty simple packaging. You don't get any headphones or anything inside. Let me just reassemble the box so I can throw it out of the way. One thing I will mention is if you're interested in picking up a phone, any phone, off contract, Best Buy offers these 10% coupons at the post office. So if you're not aware and you go to your local post office here in the US, you can get a 10% off coupon. It's for people who are moving, but they'll give them to anybody. You can use that on off-contract phones at Best Buy. So I actually saved 10% on this phone. It's a $700 phone. I got it for $70 off at Best Buy with a 10% off coupon. All right, so you get some plastic. It says it can wait text messaging while you're driving. And then there's the phone. One thing I want to point out is that there is some plastic over the camera and the sensors on the back. So when you get the phone, I took that off, obviously. It's too hard to get that back on there. There's some plastic over these, so make sure you remove it. Otherwise, it might affect the quality of your pictures. There's plastic right here on the lens, right here on your heart rate sensor. And then there's also some plastic on the back, which I didn't put back on because it just looks... it was difficult to get back on there. So let's set that to the side. The documentation is pretty standard fare. Here you have your quick start guide. I'm going to go over some of the features there. You can see a few of the things that are different from the regular S6 is the micro SIM slot doesn't require a SIM tool. You can just get your finger to pull it right out. Here you've got your power button. You've got your active key. We'll talk about the active key a little bit in a second. You've got your volume rocker, your home button. You've got your recent apps and your back button, and then the charging port. So one thing that's different about this from the regular S6 and the S6 Edge, of course, is you have physical buttons instead of capacitive buttons. So let's put that out of the way. We don't need any of that. I've got a million power bricks all over my desk right now. Let's actually take a look at the phone really quick. So I've been using this phone, and I really, really like the phone so far. Actually, the battery life has been phenomenal. We'll talk about that in a second. But otherwise, if we just take a quick tour of the phone, it looks very, very similar to just a regular, this thing looks very, very similar to just a regular Galaxy S6. So if you take a look here, we've got a regular looking Galaxy S6. It's a little bit bulkier. We'll show some comparisons in a second. It's a little bit bulkier than the regular S6. You can see from the sides, a little bulkier. It's made of not metal and glass. It's made of this more durable, rugged material. It does feel like metal around the outside, but it's a casing. You can see you've got these screws here on the back that hold into this hard plate, which keeps your phone protected. So it looks nice and rugged with the screws. This is the black version of the phone. It also comes in camouflage colors in blue and white. As I mentioned, the SIM tray actually right here, you just use your finger to pull the SIM tray out. So you actually don't need a SIM tool to get your SIM into the actual phone. And then also the charging port's in the same place. There's no cover over the charging port this year. Last year on the Galaxy S5 Active, there's a little flap there. You'll remember also on the S5, to keep water from getting in, but they took that out. And then the other key features, the volume buttons are over here. on the other side, and this new blue button, which you won't find on your regular S6. This is the active button, which will let you activate things like S-Health, any of your health monitoring apps, but you can also use it to activate any app that you want. So I'll show you that in a second. And then on the top here, you have your headphone port. So overall, it's a little bit thicker, and it's quite a bit heavier than the regular S6 or the S6 Edge, but it also has a much bigger battery inside of it. Instead of a tiny little battery like the S6 and the S6 Edge, here you get a 35,000 milliamp hour battery, which is a relatively large battery, especially for a phone this size. So 35,000 milliamp hour battery with a phone this size is pretty impressive. And so far, I've found the battery life to be equally as impressive. And then the last key feature, which I showed you guys earlier, here on the bottom you've got these physical home buttons. One thing I found annoying so far is that you actually have to click your back button to get back. Unlike on the regular S6, you just tap it. That's something you're going to have to get used to if you're coming from the regular S6. So everything else about the phone is pretty much a regular S6 or S6 Edge. It's got TouchWiz on it. You can see that I'm running Nova Launcher already. I've already reviewed the S6, so there's really no reason to review TouchWiz. One thing that you will find on the AT&T version, because my other two S6 and my S6 Edge are on T-Mobile and Verizon, you've got your settings arranged by tabs by default out of the box. You got this tab of quick settings, which you can change. So that's something a little different than the Verizon and T-Mobile model. Otherwise, it's pretty much the standard TouchWiz experience running Lollipop. You've got the same camera on the back of the phone. I will test the camera out. I've only had it for 24 hours, but I've taken some shots and they look pretty similar to my S6, but I'll definitely put it through its paces and see if it's any different than the regular S6 or the S6 Edge. One other feature that I don't like so far is you can see the speakers on the back here compared to the regular S6 and the S6 Edge, where you have the speaker on the bottom. It's easier to cover this with your hand when you're watching media, so that's one downside to the S6 Active. But I think they had to put that there in order to make it waterproof and dustproof, because of course the active version of the phone, it has this waterproof, dustproof that you want. It's also shock resistant. That's why I've got this nice hard casing. Kind of feels like Kevlar, not real Kevlar, but right, it's nice and hard so that if you drop it, it's not going to break the phone like the glass version of the S6. That thing's going to shatter if you drop it even a little bit. So the other thing I wanted to show you guys was this active button. That's the other interesting thing. So if you go here to your quick settings, you'll see right here you've got an option for your active key. And if you scroll there, you can either set the short press or the long press. And when you set that, then you can set it to any app that you want. So you see I have the short press set to Hangouts. I have the long press set to YouTube. So whenever I short press the active button, it's going to go to Hangouts. You see you've got all of your apps here. So pretty much any app that you could want, you can actually set to open using the active button. So again, the active button is right here. It's the blue button. So let's show you if I press it, it'll pop up my Hangouts conversations. I've got it on airplane mode, so it tells me to retry. But you can see it brings up Hangouts, and if I long press, turned off the phone, of course. If I long press it, then it tries to bring up YouTube, but of course I've got it on airplane mode. Let me turn it off for just a second so I can show you guys that with YouTube. So if I long press it, it'll bring up my YouTube page right there. So you can see right there my YouTube page with my subscriber count and all my views and stuff. I was looking at that earlier. So you can see the active button is actually really useful. And one thing I wanted to show you about it is it also works from the lock screen. So say you need to get into your Hangouts conversations quickly. I don't want to bring up any sensitive conversations, but I don't think I have anything on there. Press the active button and it will automatically go to whatever you were previously in. So if you long press it, it'll take you into YouTube. If you short press it, it'll take you into whatever apps you have set for the short press. So I found this active button to be really useful. I really like it actually. You can see that it works really well. It's nice and quick. So if you ever need to get to your apps very quickly, if you have a couple that you use a lot, you can set them with the active button and always have easy access. So the last thing I wanted to mention that's really different about these before I compare it to the S6 and the S6 Edge, the battery life is crazy on here. So I already mentioned it has a much bigger battery, but in my real world usage, using it for 24 hours, I put this thing through its paces and I've already charged it once and then I'm sort of draining the battery once again. But on my first full charge and drain, I got 7.5 hours screen on time from 100% to 0%. I was on social media, I was watching videos on YouTube, I was playing games. The battery life on here is really phenomenal compared to the S6 or the S6 Edge. So if you really want a phone that has all of the great features of the S6, the S6 Edge, well, aside from being the slimmest or maybe the prettiest, I don't know, that's an opinion. But if you want all the great features like the camera and the speed, and you also want great battery life, this is definitely a good way to go. So what I want to show you guys really quick before I get out of here, I'm going to have a full review on this phone after I use it for a week or two. Obviously, it's not going to be as long as some of my other reviews because it's very similar to these other two phones. Here I have the regular S6 from T-Mobile, and I have the S6 Edge, the Verizon version. You guys have seen me unbox both of these. So right now I've got 3 S6s in the house. I probably need to sell one of these eventually, or someone's going to be getting angry with me, my fiance maybe. So let's take a look here and do a quick comparison. If you look at the S6 versus the S6 Active, if you put them side by side here, let me actually do it in a way that makes more sense, like this, you can see that the S6 Active is a little bit thicker, and in fact, it's also a little bit, if we stand them up here, it's also a little bit taller. So you can see the S6 Active is a little bit taller, a little bit thicker, and actually, if you sit them on top of one another like this, you can see that the S6 Active is also a little bit wider than the regular S6. All right. Then if you compare it to the S6 Edge, of course the S6 Edge is even thinner. So you can see here, if we sit them side by side, the S6 Active is quite a bit thicker at its thinnest point. And of course, because of the height on the S6 and the S6 Edge being about the same, you can see that the S6 Active is also a little taller. And of course, it's also a little bit wider. All right, so as we can see here, the Galaxy S6 Active is thicker than both the S6 Edge and the S6, no surprise. But one thing I do want to show you is that the Galaxy S6 Active, while it is thicker and heavier than both of these phones, it's quite a bit heavier than the S6, and it's significantly heavier than the S6 Edge. But one thing I wanted to show you is that if you take a really thin case, so say you're someone who loves to protect your phone, so you're going to be using a case, at least a thin one, on your S6. And you put a case on there. So let's say I drop my Spigen, my Slim Fit here case with a kickstand right on there. This is one of the thinner cases that I have for the S6. So I drop it on there. Now it's on the S6 from T-Mobile. Now compare the thickness of the regular S6 to your Galaxy S6 Active. So take a look at that. Now the S6 Active is actually a little bit thinner, and I measured this. It's by about 1/4 of a millimeter, but it's a little bit thinner than the S6 with the Spigen Slim Fit case on it. So if you're someone who wants to protect your phone, but you also like to have thinness, well, the Galaxy S6 Active is actually thinner than the regular S6 if you throw a case on it. So what that means, of course, is that this Galaxy S6 Active doesn't really need a case. So if you're the kind of person who likes to make sure your phone is going to be in good condition, because the back on here is super durable. I'll test this, take it to the gym, throw it around. I'm not going to use a case on this phone, so while I'm doing the review, we're going to see how durable it is. But it's actually thinner than if you put a case on your S6, so that's pretty interesting. And so if you want powerful battery life and you want a phone that's thin, you don't want to use a case and still get protection, the S6 Active may be the way to go. Now, of course, it doesn't have the shimmery black sapphire, it doesn't have the beautiful colors, right? That, of course, is the downside to all of this. But it does have this property that, you know, if you don't put a case on it, it's still just as thin. Now, obviously, it's still a little bit taller if we put them side by side. And also, it's heavier, actually, still than the S6 with the case on. But if you can deal with that, I think the S6 Active is actually a really, really good choice. All right, so that's my unboxing and impressions of the S6 Active. Feel free to drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you guys want me to test in the review. Obviously, I'll be testing the battery life and the camera, see how durable it is. Don't tell me to throw it against a wall or the concrete, something stupid. I'm not going to throw my $700 phone that I paid my money for on the concrete or do something stupid with it. I'll do some water test with it, but I'm not going to destroy my phone on purpose. Obviously, it's shock resistant, water resistant, dust resistant. It's not dust proof, waterproof, or shock proof. So let me know what you guys want me to test, and I'll get the real review or the full review up in the next couple weeks. Said real review there. That's Flossie Carter's thing, copyrighted. So I'm not trying to steal that. All right, so if you guys enjoyed the content, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button for me. If not, please let me know what I can do better to improve in the future, and drop a comment down below. You can find my social media links to Twitter and Google Plus in the description. Please give me a follow so we can talk tech all week. And also, I will be launching my own website soon, so you guys can find great tech content from me and also catch up with what I'm doing with sneakers, what I'm doing in the rest of my life, and just a place to find all my content in one spot. All right, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for checking it out.